Okay, I'd like to talk through our presentation today of roles in plants and agriculture. This is for Introduction to Ag, the 8th grade class. So let's just get started. These videos right here are about careers in agriculture, especially in Arkansas. So you can watch those and kind of get a glimpse of what jobs are possible in eastern Arkansas and around the country. Uses for plants includes food, fiber, construction, pharmaceuticals, and ornamentals. So you probably know a lot of the plants we use for food. I mean, it's pretty simple. Carrots and corns and watermelons and rice and beans are all plants that we use for food, like kale and barley. We use cotton and flax as fiber. Hey, that's fiber that we turn into clothing or other materials. Plants are also used for construction. So most of your homes and buildings you're going to go into are built with plant products. They're going to be built with lumber that comes from trees. Trees are plants. Most predominant tree used for construction today is yellow pine or spruce. They grow fast. They grow very tall and straight. Very easy to mill. Very easy to cut, very easy to nail into. It's a lot easier than dealing with oak or a hardwood. So yellow pine and spruce are the most common trees used for lumber today in the United States. And pharmaceuticals. Throughout history, plants have been used for medicines, okay, like the old home remedies or the Native American remedies. What are some plants we use for medical purposes? There's a ton of them, but here's just a few, like ginger. It's good for anti-nausea, antibacterial, antiviral, antioxidant, antiparasitic. It's a really good plant out there to help you out. Garlic. Not only does it ward off vampires, it also wards off cancer. So it's toxic to at least 14 kinds of cancer cells. It improves heart health and circulation. It boosts immune function and reduces inflammation. And you have peppermint. So as you may know, a lot of times when you go to a Mexican restaurant or like Sonic, they're going to give you a peppermint with your meal. That started way back in the 1800s when restaurants became popular. At the end of the meal, they give you a peppermint. That peppermint would calm your stomach. It would make you less nauseous. That way you would return to that restaurant and give that restaurant business once again. So it offers benefits to the respiratory system, good for colds, coughs, asthma, allergies, and tuberculosis, okay? And it's good for your stomach. And then you have lavender. It keeps your hair healthy. It kills lice, eggs, and nits. It improves your digestion, relieves respiratory disorders, makes you breathe better. Then you have your ornamental plants. These are plants that are raised for their eye appeal. So to make the surrounding area more beautiful, like crepe myrtles, monkey grass, rose bushes, lilies, holly bushes, tulips, hedges, black-eyed Susan, petunias, any flowers you could think of fall into ornamental plants. Even trees fall into ornamentals and bushes. And even your yard, some grasses, you can throw that in there as ornamental. Makes your home look better or business. And here's a video of a nursery. Kind of shows a lot of different ornamental plants. And the ornamental industry is a huge industry because people will spend money to make their homes look better. Let's move into parts of the plant. So plants are made up of four main parts. The roots, they anchor the plant. They absorb water and nutrients and store food. The stem transports nutrients and water from roots to leaves and back and supports the leaves. It's like the backbone of the plant. And also the highway that transports nutrients. Leaves absorb sunlight, create food for the plant, and allow the plant to breathe through stomata. Stomata are little openings on the bottom side of the leaf that open and close and allow the plant to breathe out water vapor, breathe in CO2, breathe out oxygen. The flowers are the reproductive part of the plant. That's how they make more plants. Not all plants are going to have flowers. So that's just, some will reproduce through runners, kind of like Bermuda grass, and other plants will have flowers, like an apple tree. They'll reproduce through flowers. There's 3 processes in a plant that are important: transpiration, photosynthesis, and cellular respiration. Transpiration, the roots take up water and moves throughout the plant, and excess water evaporates and goes out the stomata of the leaf. So your equation's right there. Photosynthesis, they take in CO2, they take in water, and they take in sunlight energy, and they produce glucose. That's the little formula there in yellow. They produce glucose and oxygen, okay? Whenever that plant gets hungry, it will have to do respiration, aerobic respiration. So they'll use that glucose that is stored. They will take and use some oxygen. Then that will produce CO2. So the plants do breathe out CO2. They will give off water, which is your transpiration and water vapor, and that energy that comes out of that will be for that plant to grow. Okay. So plants are like people. We have to have certain nutrients. These nutrients are predominantly applied by pelletized chemical fertilizer in Arkansas. These nutrients can also be applied by manure or chicken litter when available. Some soils require lime, calcium carbonate to spread to raise the pH levels. So you have to have a balance of nutrients and as well a balance of pH, okay, percent hydrogen. We need most of the time, as a general rule, our pH needs to be between 5.5 to 7, okay, or 5.5 to 6.5 or closer to 7. If it gets below that, most plants can't grow. If it gets above that, most plants can't grow. And the scale goes from 0 to 14. So here's plant nutrients. These are all important, okay, but macro means they need larger amounts. So your big 3 are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, okay? That's what, in Arkansas, that's what we apply. When you see a fertilized truck or an airplane going by, they are predominantly spreading nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Those are the big 3. Our secondary nutrients, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, those will come in smaller amounts, but still very important. A lot of times our calcium will be figured in when we apply lime, and magnesium usually is already present in the soil. It just depends. In this area, it's usually present in the soil, so we don't need to apply much more of that. And then sulfur, a lot of times, especially in corn, we will apply ammonium sulfate, which is nitrogen plus sulfur, and that will get our sulfur component in there and also ward off any funguses, because fungus and sulfur do not mix. Sulfur is almost a cure. It is a cure for fungus, even in people, animals, and plants. Sulfur, fungus don't mix. And in our micronutrients, boron, copper, chloride, iron, manganese, molybdenum, and zinc, as well as nickel. They've added nickel in there recently. Those will usually be already present in the soil, or they'll be applied as a seed treatment that will go on the outside of the seed when we plant, and that will just be just enough to give that seed a boost. So here's some ways to apply fertilize. Very common. So you have in the top left, that's my video I made of us spreading lime this fall. Then you have a spreader truck, very common in Arkansas, the airplane, and then the chicken litter. Okay. Nitrogen, the key element in growing vegetative plant tissue. That is the leaves of the plant. They take up nitrogen in the forms of nitrates and ammonium. Okay, it's mobile in the plant, mobile in the soil, which means it will move throughout the plant and move throughout the soil. They won't stay stuck anywhere. Here's the nitrogen cycle. 75% of the air that we breathe is nitrogen. Okay. However, most plants cannot fix that N2 gas that's in the air. Only leguminous plants like soybeans, alfalfa, any type of peas, peanuts, they have nodules on their roots that will fix that nitrogen and turn that into usable nitrogen for the plant. If not, it has to go through nitrogen fixing bacteria that will turn it into ammonium or nitrates that the plants can take up. There's also denitrifying bacteria that will turn that back into N2 gas. We don't want this happening. Okay. There's also one step in here that they have left out, and that would be an arrow down. for leaching. Leaching is if you have too much water or if your soil type is very sandy, that water will go through the soil layers and will take that nitrogen with it, and it'll take it away from the root zone where the plants can take it up. So this is a big diagram for them to fit all their words, but really all this happens right up here in the topsoil layer, just right around the roots. It doesn't happen all the way down here because those roots could never get to it if it happened down here. Problems with nitrogen, it's highly leachable. Like I said, it'll go through the soil layers. And then denitrification, loss of nitrogen through the atmosphere. One way we combat nitrification is through products like agrotane. Agrotane is a slow release product that goes on the outside of the nitrogen pellets, and that will slow down the process of that nitrogen being released into the soil. Okay, because if you don't incorporate it, which means till it into the soil, or if you don't get an immediate rain to allow that to soak into the soil, that nitrogen over time will just evaporate into the atmosphere, go back to N2 gas, and then you've lost your money. Okay, so it not only do you lose your money, you also lose the timing of that fertilizer. Fertilizer application is very important to get that time correctly when the plant needs it. Okay, so that's the reason they come up with this product like agrotane and other products that slow that denitrification down. Deficiency symptoms, the leaves will turn yellow. Most time when you see something like this, it's already too late. You've already lost yield, like in this cornfield right here. They've already lost yield. But you can go back and apply some nitrogen. You can learn from your mistakes, and you might could save that from a total loss. And that goes the same with any of these deficiency symptoms that you see, nutrient-wise, is if you see it, you've already lost yield. All thing you can do is try to learn from your mistakes and save what you do have. You have phosphorus. Holds and transfer energy for metabolism. It's mobile in the plant, immobile in the soil. The deficiencies reduce growth, dark to reddish leaf colorations. You look like that, kind of purplish. Now, that's a corn plant right there. Now, if you see that some other time, I've seen milo, grain sorghum, turn that color before, and it was due to a drift of a chemical. So you have to be careful of trying to identify different deficiency symptoms like that. Soil test, tissue samples usually work the best. Then you have potassium. We need potassium in our bodies. If you start having muscle cramps, you know you need some potassium. It's mobile in the plant, mobile in the soil. So just like nitrogen. Deficiency symptoms include chlorosis, which means yellow between the leaf veins. Purple spots may appear, and it first appears on the older leaves first. That's because the newer leaves, the younger leaves up high, will pull the potassium and also nitrogen away from the older leaves, kind of like children suck the life out of their parents, and that will pull that away from the older leaves, and you'll start seeing symptoms in the older leaves first. Corn leaf with a potassium deficiency. And we have soil particles. Soil dirt is made up of three main ingredients. This is the largest and smallest: sand, silt, and clay. You also find air, water, and organic matter in soils, and as well as living organisms. This right here is a soil texture triangle. Soil texture is the balance or percentage of clay, sand, and silt in the soil. And this is important. We can take the soil between our fingers. We can rub that. If it feels gritty, we know it's going to be in the sand category. If it's silky smooth like flour, we know it's going to be in the silt loam category. Now, if you can mold it like Play-Doh, it's going to be in clay. And when we figure out where that soil is going to fall, we can then determine the best use for that soil. Okay, the land capability classes. Is it good for crop production, pasture land, development, recreation, wildlife, etc.? That's what we need to know. Here's land judging. The land judging team for FFA and 4-H, that's what they do. They take that soil, they determine the best use for that land. Major crops raised in Greene County includes rice, soybeans, corn, wheat, milo, pasture grass, cotton, and peanuts. So this is a video of us planting the corn and soybeans at the school farm. Hope you enjoy it. And here's a few different videos if you're interested of soybeans and planting and soybean harvest And they did some corn in this one, and this is my video of having to work on the combine and doing some soybean harvest. Rice and cotton. Let's round this out right here. Irrigation, major part of Arkansas agriculture. We have some of the best water in the world. We have an abundant water source and underground aquifer. But we also use water runoff in ditches, reservoirs, and rivers. There's a few main ways we irrigate. We flood, the use of levees in fields, or zero grade. That means the field is perfectly level in all directions. This is mainly for rice production. You can flood soybeans, but it's more of a flush. So you have to flush the field, get a couple inches of water, then pull the water off, or you'll kill the soybeans. Furrow irrigation, most common way we irrigate corn and soybeans, and cotton and milo, but we're starting to do some rice. Doing the row rice is very time consuming. You have to be very on point with your water. A lot more management goes into that. So we use polytubing or polypipe to water down rows. And in a pivot, you don't see very many pivots west of Crowley's Ridge here in Arkansas, but on the east side of Crowley's Ridge and farther south and north, you're going to see a lot of pivots. The use of a continuous sprinkle system that pivots around a water source. You can use it on row rice. You can use it on corn, milo, soybeans, cotton, and pasture. You see a lot of it used in cotton and pasture lands. So here's a video of us laying polypipe on the school farm and getting that going, and furrow irrigation using surface water. We have this type of setup at the school farm power unit, and then here's the center pivot. So please enjoy that. And crop management. Weed management is very important. Unwanted plants, weeds rob nutrients, water, and sunlight from crop plants. Common weeds in Arkansas are pigweed, cuckleberry, crabgrass, mare's tail, red rice, and coffee beans, and indigo. So a few ways we do that. There's just a couple bonus videos here of spraying burn down in the spring, and then we sling a little bit of manure. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this kind of solidifies that information that you read in the slides. I know I spoke quickly. That way you can download this video easily. If something didn't click with you, you can always rewind and go back and listen to it again. So hope you enjoy. Hope you learn a little bit about plants in agriculture.